One way that childhood trauma hurts your ability to have a healthy relationship is by halting your emotional development. Now, when parents threaten a kid and ignore them, they have only a child's mind to interpret, why are they treating me like this? Is it about me? And to figure out how to cope with it. So some people learn to shut down emotionally, which obviously isn't good for adult relationships later. And some people fixate on getting the love that they're so hungry for. And even with a good partner, they're so fixated they can't really be present or feel the love that they're given because there's this emptiness inside that they're sure their partner is causing. And in this video, I respond to a letter from a woman who suspects that nothing her boyfriend does will ever feel like enough for her. And she's questioning if the problem is her or him. I'll call her Ariel. And she writes, "Dear Anna, I've been in a relationship with a guy for almost 2 years now. It's my first romantic relationship ever. All right, I've got my fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to on a second reading, but let's see what's going on in Ariel's life. The problem is I can't stop second guessing myself about whether this relationship is good for me or not. I'm very confused because I don't know if my emotional swings and anxiety are caused by my own trauma or by my partner. I think our relationship is codependent. I've been emotionally neglected in my childhood. My mother would tell me not to cry all the time, and she even mocked me for crying. She also used to hit me as a form of punishment. She punished me by ignoring me completely, which resulted in my emotional breakdowns. I also experienced SA at a very young age, though I don't see any consequences of it in my adult life as of now. Overall, I didn't feel safe at home. Now, I will try to describe some issues that I have with my partner," Ariel says. "First of all, every complaint and every demand has always come from me only. It might be as simple as, 'You don't cut tomatoes like that,' or as serious as, 'It seems like you take me for granted.' When I ask, 'Is there something I can do for you to make you feel more loved?' he answers that it's fine and I don't need to do anything more. It makes me feel guilty because I seem to be always dissatisfied with whatever he does for me. Sometimes there are days when I'm dying to see him, and then when we actually meet, I can't help but feel frustration and irritation toward him, even if he doesn't do anything bad. It might be because of an anxious attachment style. It also shows in other situations. I feel very vulnerable when he refuses to meet, prioritizing his interests. I feel betrayed, and it looks as if he doesn't love me that much anymore. I see how absurd such a reaction might look from the outside, considering that we still spend at least 2 to 3 days a week together. We're both getting our education right now, so we don't have that much free time. I arrange almost all of our meetings. However, when I suppress my urge to ask him to come over, he does take steps to see me himself. So the initiative from him does show when I let him. I frequently blame my partner for not giving me enough attention, and he sometimes comes over to my house and spends some time scrolling through TikTok, which makes me angry because I want him to spend time with me when we're together. He also often falls asleep while we watch movies. He says he just cannot control it. His sleep pattern is quite chaotic, which is also one of my favorite topics to criticize. I've been trying to solve such issues by asking him to give more attention, and then I figured out that probably giving more attention wouldn't fix the problem because it seems that it would never be enough. Here's another example of our miscommunication regarding enough attention. Once I invited him to celebrate New Year with my family. We spent several days there, and the day before New Year's, he just didn't want to wake up in the morning. I tried to wake him up gently, but in the end, he just mumbled something like, 'Let me sleep.' I took offense at this and left. I spent the whole day with my family waiting for him to get up, but he managed to get out of the room only in the evening. I'll mention that he doesn't show signs of depression, and his sleeping all day was not because of some severe mental health issues, hopefully. Later this evening, we went to my room. I cried a lot and then managed to explain how much it hurt me that he preferred to sleep all day instead of spending time with me on this special occasion. He helped me to calm down and explain that he didn't mean what he said in the morning. 'Let me sleep,' he didn't mean it. And that he thought I could have fun without him just fine. He said that it's unusual to him that someone actually needs him and wants him to be around. Does this situation show that he doesn't care about me, or that it's his trauma kicking in and we should work on it together? A big problem is also that I often try to fix my partner and make him change. At first, I thought that I'm doing it for his own good and he's becoming a better person thanks to me. But then I realized that it's not healthy to demand a change from him. I understand that if we're incompatible, it's best just to break up. But I don't want to let go because there seems to be no legitimate reason for separation. I try to communicate all my concerns, and he is always willing to listen and understand. He also says that it's okay for me to lecture him about some topics. And it's okay for me to try to change his behavior if it's affecting me. So at some point, I figured it's okay to want a change if he's not against it. Is it a unhealthy dynamic? All these thoughts are cluttering my mind 24/7, and I struggle to see what's real here. I'm very stressed about all that, and it makes me think that this relationship brings me more harm than good. I'm seeing a therapist now, though your videos explain and help so much more than my therapy sessions. Thank you. I also started doing your daily practice, which will hopefully help with my anxiety. Sincerely, Ariel. Okay, Ariel. Yeah, I understand what's going on here, I think. I haven't heard his point of view, of course. That's always the case with these letters. So I'm here as your advocate, but I may be able to help you see what's going on. So you didn't say how old you were, but because this is your first relationship and you say that you and your boyfriend are getting your education right now, I'm guessing that you're college age. And you said that you can't stop second guessing yourself about whether it's a good relationship or not, because you're just anxious all the time and you're unsatisfied. And you think your relationship is codependent. So first, I'm not sure I would use that word. I think maybe you are codependent and he's putting up with it, so I guess you could call it that. But I don't think codependence is necessarily the primary thing. I see it there. Codependence, I define it as when you take your energy and instead of solving your own life problems, you put it on somebody else and try to make them change so you can feel okay. And in that sense of the word, that's definitely what's going on here. You're trying to make him change so that you feel okay. And you seem to have lost your agency to be able to manage your own emotions and to be able to have some boundaries, to be able to tolerate when he decides he doesn't want to hang out or he would like to sleep. And you interpret things almost through the eyes of a child, of a neglected child who feels entitled and therefore demands that they get cared for with that like unconditional attention and love that a child deserves and needs to have. But it's different in a couple where people are free agents. They get to decide if they sleep in. And it's nice if they communicate about it. I get that he wasn't very communicative and that you were there with your family and maybe that was a little embarrassing and you didn't know if he was going to get up or what was going on. I get that. But at the same time, for you to like go into, is it mental health? Is it, is he messing with you? I don't think so. He needed sleep. And since you guys are both in school, that doesn't surprise me. It's a time in life, being young and often school, there's often work at the same time. For me, I had to sleep quite long hours sometimes and was up all night trying to hit some deadline, or partying with my friends. So a lot of things were going on. But that didn't strike me as anything weird, just that he didn't communicate with you and be courteous towards you about the fact that he decided he wanted to sleep in all day. So when you told me about your childhood, this all made sense. Getting mocked for crying, your mother ignoring you for punishment, that silent treatment, that is emotional abuse, my dear. And I'm really sorry she did that. And then you were SA'd at a very young age, and you say you don't see any consequence of it. And I understand what you mean. Maybe no distinctive consequences, but it sure would have something to do with this thing you say where overall I didn't feel safe at home. And that stays with you. Now the issues with the partner, they sound like some of it is just kind of the difficulties of being with another person. And if he's a young man, a lot of these sound like sort of young man issues. So first of all, every complaint and every demand always comes from you. All right, you know what that is? That's anxious attachment, where nothing ever feels like enough. You even sort of self-identified as saying, I worry that no matter how much he gave me, it wouldn't feel like enough. And that is what anxious attachment is like. There's a feeling that we have, and it's like our minds are so compelling us to believe that they are causing that feeling of anxiety, of need, of emptiness, of like, I need love. I should have been loved. This bad feeling I have is because you won't love me. It feels so much like that. And it's not that life doesn't have situations where that could be true, but usually that's not what's true. And the telltale sign is that it just doesn't go anywhere. Somebody can have very good will and say, well, I want to help you feel better. I'll talk to you. I'll help you. You can criticize me, all these things he said, but it doesn't fix anything. And that's your telltale sign that the thing that needs to be fixed is in here. It's not coming from him, but it's being projected on him that he's the one who heard it and he's the one who should fix it. And even that he's the one who can fix it. And so I'm so glad you started the daily practice, because for me, similar behavior didn't change. I didn't stop, having that expectation that other people were going to fix me, blaming them for making me feeling frustrated and empty and sad and unmet needs. And then, demanding that they do it and being angry and having these long drawn out crying fests and arguments and things about why couldn't they understand? If I could just get them to understand, they would give that to me. And then I got the daily practice, and it was like this huge light came on. It was coming from me. The emptiness was here. It was a wound from trauma, and they can't fix it. And when you start putting that demand on other people, I guess I'm beginning to see why you're saying it might be a codependent relationship. Although I don't know how much he tries to fix it for you, but he seems very tolerant of it. If you have anxious attachment style, and this is, for people who are new to attachment styles, some experts have sort of observed that people who were very well cared for as kids have something called secure attachment, and other people who were neglected and their needs weren't very well met by their parents, they have insecure attachment, and it can show up as avoidance, it can show up as anxious, insecure attachment, and even like a mixed version of that, where, sometimes they're grabbing onto the relationship and sometimes they're running away from it, which is the hardest kind. But often if you're anxious attachment, which means you're always thinking like, where's my love? How do I get my love? Why haven't you given it to me? Can be very compatible with somebody who's avoidant, who's like, I don't feel strong emotions. I don't see what the problem is. I need to have a little space right now. Somebody who looks at their phone all the time is avoidant, but everybody looks at their phone, right? Even when they only see you 3 times a week. It's a way that we relax. And busy people, if they get together and just hang out, if there's some looking at phones, you could argue people really shouldn't do that. It's not polite. But the intensity of your response to it sounds like an anxious, attached reaction to it. And that probably what's contributing is at least there's some avoidance on his part. Somebody being avoidant doesn't rule them out as a great partner. It means both people have to come together. And so I don't know if he's doing that now. It seems like maybe he is, or, he does try this thing where he said, you can criticize me, it's okay. And he's trying, and he apologized on the New Year's thing. So I see him making an effort here, but you're totally doubting. You've lost your bearings on whether it's okay for you to feel this way. And it's funny because there are some schools of thought where it's like everything we feel is okay and important. But in this case, I think that there's old childhood stuff that's projecting out on him, and it's never going to work because I have sad news. You cannot be parented again. You can't get that parent love again. What you didn't get as a kid, that window closed. And so luckily, you're still here on Earth. You're with a human being. He seems very interested in having a good relationship with you. Yay. So love is totally possible. But whoever we're with, there's kind of 2 things we have to do. And one is to be realistic about who are they, and not just go in with a project plan of like, you would be so great if I could make you into this image I have of how you should be, of this perfected version of you. And I totally get that idea, like I'm helping him, thanks to me, he's becoming a better person. I think that good couples do that for each other. So it's not crazy to think that, but the project of fixing, obviously, some of us could take it too far. I've done it, you've done it. And you're aware of it. Like, fixing people is not good. Allowing people to be themselves is good. Now, of course, in a relationship, we have to speak up sometime and say, when you're scrolling your phone and I've been waiting for 4 days to see you, I feel really hurt. Can we just put our phones away and have dinner? It's okay to say that. But if he says yes but can't really do it because he's, when do we look at our phones? It's just our minds are tired. Maybe he's avoidant, but it's also just what we do when we're tired. It's so entertaining. TikTok, right? I'm blocked out of my TikTok account, so I never look at it. And for reasons, who knows, no reason. There's just no password or email for me anymore, and you can't get help there. A little aside. But that's just one less thing for me to get all obsessed on, because I will look at Instagram, and I will look at emails, and I will look at YouTube, of course. You know, how's it doing? How's that video doing? How are the stats? Of course I look at that, and it absolutely can captivate me to the point that I'm not being present with the people that I love and who I love in situations where it's that precious time together. So I understand what you're saying. You know, I think what you're describing is two people who are working on trying to meet in the middle, and you're doubting whether the middle is legitimate. My opinion is yes, middle is legitimate. And this thing where you're like, is he so terrible? I'm not hearing it. It might be a controversial opinion, but I think sometimes avoidance, not extreme avoidance, they need to be capable of love and they need to be interested in trying to meet in the middle, but they can make good partners for an anxious avoidant because they're not as reactive, right? They're not feeding in. Like if you get two anxious people just sitting there trying to process everything to death, oh no, you're going to get so crazy. You're going to be up all night, all the time. You know, it's like, please understand me. I've been in that relationship before. So an avoidant kind of puts a limit on how far all of that can go. And then you get sad and your mind races and goes, see how terrible the relationship is. See how awful I must be. What's wrong with me? And then what you do is, because if you do the daily practice, I suggest to everybody, these are the twin techniques I teach that help to get all the emotions and thoughts that get jammed up in there after trauma for our lives. I mean, that's like what happens. It's a thing. You get it out on paper. And I teach a very specific technique followed by a simple meditation. And you will be amazed how effective it can be to calm your mind and make space there to be perceptive and to be present and to enjoy what's there, or, you know, to go in and say, you know what, this is no good. I'm going to set a boundary. I'm going to leave. Or you get to have choices, in other words. So the daily practice twice a day is so great, because when you have that urge to be like, come on, you're trying to squeeze them like a lemon, give me some love, make this thing feel better. You take it to the daily practice. Almost always it's from there. After you've written it and released it, maybe read to a buddy, as we sometimes do, you can talk to him. And I would say for me that when I'm feeling like I want to talk to my husband about something, I'm distressed. If I write first, what I need to talk about is shrunk down to about 20% what it was before. It wasn't like everything in the kitchen sink, right? And then it's like, okay, I have a couple things I want to talk about. And he can hear it so much better when I've stripped off all this stuff that's not really about him. It's not caused by him. He can't fix it. I'm tripping, or I'm remembering, or it's really, you know, I don't know. This week, I'm back to really being squeaky clean with my bright line eating, which feels really good, but it's emotional. It's emotional. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit it. And, for women, sometimes it's like being on your period is the same thing, where you're just like, there's a certain moment when you're like, oh wait, is that what it is? And then you kind of don't want to admit it. And other people know not to ask. But it's like that a little bit. And so we become unreasonable. And that's literally what happens, because trauma causes this change in the way our brains respond to stress. And we get less activity in the reasoning in the left side here in the front cortex, and we get more activity in the emotion side. So we're not reasoning, and we are feeling, that's what unreasonable is. Very emotional, not really quite seeing what's going on. And that's hard for other people, and you don't want to ruin a good relationship. I don't hear that you've discerned yet, is this the right relationship? But I see the bones of somebody who's willing to work with you on your quirks, you know, and try to help you. So we'll see, right? We'll see what happens. But if it's your first relationship, it's okay to hang out and just experience it and let information come to you about, what is this? Who is this person? How do I feel in this? So if you're feeling terrible, absolutely give your daily practice a chance to lift some of that off you and your burden of emotions, and see if there's a shift. And from that shifted place, with less dreck of, with less of that, and because you don't see him more than 2 or 3 days a week, you have extra time to kind of create that space. then see how you experience it. Sometimes you get this radical change inside and then you're like, oh, it's all solved now. And then, oh, the personality quirk comes right back in. And that's what happens. It's up and down, it's up and down. And that's why it's a daily practice, not a one-time practice. We don't just go to a mountaintop and do it for a while. We do it all the time. We do it every day, a couple times, just like we brush our teeth. You know, it's just good hygiene. So I hope you continue with that. I hope you write back to us one day and let us know how it's going. I hear good bones here of a relationship, and I hope very much that you have a positive experience with it, because after what you've been through, somebody treating you well is a good thing. And a relationship where you also have room to heal your own wounds is a good thing. So with that, I'm going to leave everyone with the daily practice. It's a free course. You can learn it in less than an hour, and it's right here. You can click it and get started right away. And I will see you very soon.